Hello? Hey, Sierra. How are you? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, now I can.
Okay, weird. It says I was put on hold, but usually when I do the participant ID, the phone icon doesn't show up. So, oh well, whatever.
Huh. It's looking a little funny today, Zoom.
I know I've been having some weird issues with it as well. So I don't know if it's like they're doing a bug update or what.
Yeah, in fact, now that we're talking about it, I remembered that they did just do an update to some of the audio stuff.
Maybe that's why.
Hey, Stephanie.
Hi. Oh, I've been meeting with students, so I usually do a virtual background so they don't see my apartment.
I was like, wow, you moved.
Yeah, Yosemite.
Not a bad place.
Can't go abroad, then physically be there virtually.
Yeah, we just canceled all of our winter programs, and I don't see us sending any students probably until maybe in the fall, just with how travel bans have been going and stuff. And
Yeah.
Cal schools just announced that they're going to be virtual in the spring now. So I assume that will be virtual probably then, but Stanford takes forever to make a decision. So it's going to be a while, even though we're just assuming it. So
yeah,
it's crazy.
Man.
It is crazy. That's crazy. They've already decided that.
Yeah, at least, at Cal schools. Well, they're on semester systems, so it's a little bit different. We're on quarters. We have winter and spring. So they'll make the decision kind of quarter by quarter. But you see universities and it's just messy. So.
Hi, Alex.
Not easy right now.
Hi, Melissa. Olivia, is that you? On the phone?
It's a 571 area code.
That's me.
Oh,
that's Sierra.
Okay. All right. Cool. Cool. Just give Katie a minute or two. I bet the demand for study abroad is going to be huge, though. Once people can travel again, I think everybody's going to be wanting to do that.
Yeah, the airlines will be excited about that too.
I know. I think any business is ready now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it looks like Katie's joining a second too. How's everybody doing? Feels like it's been forever since we last saw each other. Katie!
Hello.
How are you?
My audio just joined, so if you were saying anything to me, I didn't hear you.
Well, we were just talking about how Zoom did a big update around audio. And usually we can find that out because the audio doesn't work. Whatever they've done an update around normally doesn't work that next day, but God knows they're working on overdrive these days.
It's true.
Well, welcome. I think we have a quorum and a mystery caller. I think that might actually be Dylan dialed in.
Hey, Dylan.
Well, look, I'm so excited. I know we have all had plenty of context leading up to tonight, so I won't belabor it with the preamble here. Excited for you guys to meet Katie from Mirror, and I'll let her give a more formal introduction. And she's familiar with all of your profiles as well. But I thought just so she could quickly put kind of like a face to the name, if we just wanted to go around, maybe starting with you, Sierra, and give a little one-liner about you.
Yeah, sure. Hey, Katie. Nice to meet you virtually. Yeah, I'm currently working for Deloitte, but looking to find a new position in customer success and really enjoy working with people, as I'm sure all of us do here, but also solving some creative problems. So thinking that it's a good fit, but just having a hard time switching job and industry, but looking forward to hear what you have to say.
Cool. Stephanie, how about you? I don't know what the clockwise looks like on everybody else's screen, but I'm just going clockwise here.
Hi, Katie. I'm Stephanie. I currently work at Stanford University as a study abroad advisor. And a lot of what I do has a lot of elements of customer success in terms of like onboarding people, as well as developing relationships with people. I've been in higher ed for since I was in college and looking for something new. And trying to figure out how I will go about that transition, especially working a full-time job and trying to almost do 2 jobs at once. Yeah.
I'm familiar.
Alex, how about you go next?
Hey, Katie, nice meeting you. I'm Alex. I do work in international operations right now for a nonprofit. A lot of what I do, like Stephanie said, I have a lot of elements of customer success. So I'm trying to bring in that knowledge and my passion for helping people into a CSM role, ideally in tech.
Great. Melissa.
Hi, Katie. My name is Melissa. I have been in customer service for industrial automation, component manufacturer and distribution for many, many years, like 15 years now. And I'm feeling very pigeonholed. And so I'm looking to get out of the industry and into customer success, something more, where I'm actually can see the people that I'm helping, as opposed to just selling parts to people on the other end of the phone, something much more rewarding, I suppose. So that's kind of my deal.
Awesome. And last but not least, Olivia, take us away.
Hi, it's great to virtually meet you, and I come from the nonprofit fundraising world, so I'm really excited to keep on, continuing to have that relationship building aspect as I transition into CSM, and also being able to help use technology to be able to make customers' lives more efficient, and so then they can be empowered to have more time back in their day to be able to continue achieving whatever goals that they have at hand too.
Awesome. That's the crew, Katie. It's quite a crew. I can flip it over to the presentation because I know your intros and background is part of that too. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that's great. Let's do it.
All right.
I'm just gonna quickly, I left my water over there. I'm gonna go get it.
Yeah, okay, good segue. This is like if we were in person, it would have been a good transition, physical transition.
Okay,
right.
Here it is. I have my water. All right.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen here.
Awesome.
Okay, all right.
This is great, because with you sharing, I can still see everybody.
Yeah, okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Awesome, okay. Yeah, go for it, Katie. You take it away, and I'll chime in.
Cool. So these are the things we're going to go through today, like pretty straightforward. So we're going to talk about my career, my pivot story, and then just a little bit about like startup life, because I've heard we have some anxiety around like what does it even mean to work at a startup? To be frank with you, like when I decided I wanted to work in startups, I didn't know what that meant either. So you're not alone in that. What a CSM does on a day-to-day basis. And then just some role qualities, positioning tips for your resume, just to get your foot in the door. Because I firmly believe that like for almost anyone, and certainly it seems like this group, you get your foot in the door and you get that interview, you're gonna have it in the bag. So it's really about getting your foot in the door. So we can go to the next one.
Awesome. And that's great. Only thing I'll say just logistically is we're going to have a chunk of time for Q&A, but feel free to drop questions into the chat, and we'll take some breaks too as we move through this.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I just sort of threw my career here in a linear fashion. So I'll start from the left, work towards the right. And of course, like, stop me if you have any questions, or because like if you have anything you want to interject here. So I included my major because I think a lot of people put a lot of stake in like, what did you study in school? And it's become very much my opinion that like what you studied in school teaches you how to think, and it, unless you're a doctor or a chemist or a computer engineer, what you learned in school really just teaches you how to think. I'm not using any of the skills that I learned in college based on my major in my career, but I'm certainly using the thought processes and the sort of ability and drive to learn. So I graduated from college with a degree in East Asian languages with a focus in Japanese and a minor in historic dress restoration, which I'm still confused about how my parents like let that happen. Like, this is one of the like times in my life that I know they must really love me, because that was a lot of money for like a really ambiguous college degree. That helped
I
me
just
with
want to know if you've restored any East Asian dresses. Like, have you combined that major and minor at all?
Yeah, so I worked at the Museum of the City of New York for a long time, and by worked at I mean I was a volunteer. There's no career in museums, to be honest, unless you're independently wealthy, which I very sadly am not. But yeah, I've restored a lot of things. If you're familiar, like, I've restored dresses worn by Liza Minnelli and Angela Lansbury.
That's so cool.
I've done older stuff too. The Museum of the City of New York has the second largest clothing collection in the United States after the Met. And so I've done stuff as old as like some of the earliest Rockefellers. We've gone earlier than that. They own the beetle dress of Lady Macbeth worn on stage in the mid 1800s. I've actually touched it, which was like, so a cool major to have and a cool experience. I think you probably saw this behind me. So something
awesome.
Something I've taken with me in my life as far as passion. I like to think that I sort of took East Asian languages and my passion for clothing and fashion with me to Uniqlo, which is a Japanese retailer. So I started out as a floor associate. The honest to God story is that I was sitting in Starbucks over the summer after I graduated, applying for jobs, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and a giant double-decker bus went by the Starbucks with a giant sign for Uniqlo that said "Now hiring." And so I was like, okay. So I applied for the floor associate role and heard back from them in about 20 minutes. So they were in the process of opening their 5th Avenue and 34th Street locations. So this is like way back in the day when Soho was the only store location for Uniqlo in the United States. So I joined as a floor associate, very quickly worked my way up to manager in training. I went to study I studied abroad in college. So I studied at Doshisha University in Kyoto, and then that was for
Stephanie's
a year.
familiar with that one. Stephanie's
really?
like, oh, I've placed so many students there.
Yeah, we actually have a partnership with them with Stanford.
So I was at AKP.
I'm not the advisor for it, but I kind of wish I was.
Yeah, no, AKP rules. I had a great time, like was absolutely best friends with my host mom. I have incredibly wonderful memories from that time, and like was actually fluent in Japanese for a minute. That's sadly no longer the case.
Nice, that's cool.
Yeah, so the cool thing is that when I went back to Japan for the manager in training program in Uniqlo, because when they only had stores in the US, the only way to learn to be a manager was to go to Japan. They placed me in Osaka, which is super close to Kyoto. And so I was able to go see my host family all the time, which is super wonderful. And so took everything that I learned in Japan about how to be a really great manager. And I think if you're not aware, customer service in Japan is exceptional. And so really learning the customer service mindset, how to treat customers with deference, how to problem solve with them in a foreign language as well. Really, really honed my ability to be pretty cool. If you're not familiar with Uniqlo's work-life balance, there is none. So I'm sure we're all familiar with the fact that Japanese work life is very intense. In Japan, Uniqlo is considered insane. as far as work life. I think too, when you graduate from college, I mean, at least for myself, I was pretty naive. I thought I knew what it meant to work really hard, and I actually had absolutely no idea. And Uniqlo really taught me how to work hard and how to be really great at customer service. And so came back to the United States as an assistant store manager, opening new store locations. So opened a bunch of stores in Boston, as well as I was for a while, like a store fixer. So they have a very intense audit process. So I would go from store to store for stores that weren't doing well and try to figure out what was the root cause and then fix it. And usually it's like a sort of team attitude or customer service mindset, and figuring out how to make sure that like the staff at the store is really happy. And if they're really happy, then your customers are going to be really happy. Pretty simple.
That's really interesting to see how transferable that is to customer success.
Yeah. I also think too that like, yeah, the Japanese team didn't really understand that concept. And so I think working or having the opportunity to work at a foreign country or a foreign company allowed me to really understand the like differences in mindsets, which is great. I would love to work for another foreign company again one day. So that's sort of my history at Uniqlo. I can pause there if we have any questions about retail in general. No? Okay. So
Cool.
parted ways with Uniqlo. I realized that as much as I had learned and felt really fortunate in the experiences that I'd had, I think it got to the point of diminishing returns. And so I tried to figure out like, what do I want to do next? And I was like, you know what sounds really sexy? Startups. Had no idea what it meant. But I did sort of sit and think about what did I want to do in my next role? And what I landed on is being a store manager, you have incredible influence over the business. You're directly responsible for the money. And so you can see the immediate result of the work that you're doing. And I really like that. And that's something that you can do at startups. I was working with a lot of young people my age. I wanted to do that. I knew that I didn't necessarily want to go to another big company where I would be working with people who were maybe like of a different mindset. And then I think the idea of a startup is very sexy, that it's small and there's a small team and you can wear a lot of hats. I think we say that a lot, like you can wear a lot of hats. I don't know if people understand what that means, because I think like it sounds really cool to wear a lot of hats, but sometimes you're wearing an ugly hat that you don't necessarily like, but it needs to be worn because you're the right person to get it done. But I don't know, in the end of the day, like that's really exciting too. So I ended up at Casper. I joined Casper before the Series B was concluded. Had no idea, none of us had any idea what Casper was going to become. I was the, I don't know, third or fourth CX associate there. I very quickly moved up to the supervisor position, and then very quickly after that, again, to the manager position. I think all of the promotions were like within a year. I can thank the fact that I was in retail for so long and I was able to get a lot of management experience ahead. I think of my career as a little bit backwards, where I did all the management experience first and then started honing my skills in like business management and other such things afterwards, where I think a lot of people think of a career as sort of like linear from like learning your tasks and then learning how to teach other people how to do it. Yeah. I was sort of doing them like concurrently, or even like really people management first.
Interesting. And Katie, for this group, because I think it would be interesting, can you share how you broke into Casper? Like, how did you find that role?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. So I applied on AngelList first, and they totally ghosted me. And honestly, this has been my experience with AngelList forever. Like, I just don't trust AngelList. I think people like, I think employers, like they put themselves on AngelList and then absolutely ignore every applicant that comes in. I don't even know why they bother to use it. Sorry, I'm playing with an X-Acto knife. If there's no blade. So Yeah, AngelList is really not my favorite. So then I ended up actually applying through Planted, which if you're not familiar with, I'm sure Dylan is very familiar as he worked at Planted. Yeah. So I joined Planted, and they put me in touch with Casper. And I remember in my first interview with them, or with the future manager of mine, I said, you know, I applied on AngelList, and you guys never got back to me. What made you change your mind? And he said, he like sort of like had this like 1,000-yard stare, and he was like, wow, I don't remember the last time I looked on AngelList.
Wow.
So I think there is merit in applying from multiple sources to a company, like applying directly and applying through a recruiter. Like it could make a difference. I think maybe don't like spam people as you go. Like don't do it like 5 times, but I think twice is reasonable. If you don't hear back from them the first time, that's their fault if they didn't respond to you, frankly.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I was at Uniqlo for 4 years. I was at Casper for 3.5 years. So I became the manager of the support team. I was the manager of the support team for like, I don't know, 2 years of that. And then somewhere in there, we realized that we were just waiting for sales to happen to us. And we wanted to understand what it meant to have a team that was directly impacting sales. We didn't have that before. Like if someone called and said, hey, I want to purchase, like, can I do that directly through you? Our answer was like, oh, you can just go to Casper.com and take care of it yourself, which is like ridiculous. Of course, we weren't making money over the phone. We found that, I mean, this is going to sound like extremely basic, but just having a sales team increased our sales by 50%.
Wow.
Which was insane, but also that just really meant that we were leaving that amount of sales on the table by not having a team dedicated to selling. And so I built out the sales team, really developed all of our workflows, figured out who we were going to hire, defined all of the language that we used, A/B tested that language, learned a bunch of SQL in order to make our dashboards really great, onboarded a bunch of new tools, optimized our CRM. So one of my goals, as an example, was to make it, so one of the things my team complained about a lot was that they had to send really detailed follow-up emails. And so I sat down with them and we figured out what are like the 10 most common things that people are asking us about on a day-to-day basis, because it's very unlikely that like outside of those 10 things, like maybe 90% of the time people are only asking one or many of those 10 things. Yep. So we developed an email or a workflow within Salesforce where you could put in the person's name. You had like 1 or 2 sentences for personalization, quickly click on the things that they asked you about, another opportunity for personalization, and then it automatically put in your name and you could hit send. So my goal was within 30 seconds of a call being hung up that you would be done. You'd hit that button. There's a 5-minute delay on that email, and then the person gets a really, really specific follow-up email that looks like it's based on the conversation you had, but wasn't really. They just clicked a bunch of buttons, but it seemed really personalized. So that's
super. That is super. Sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, because there's a lot, and I know we're kind of segging into some of these other sections here, but this is actually great, and everyone else just like give some thumbs up too if this is helpful, because I feel like this nuance is exactly what is good to like demystify some of these things that are bullets on resumes right now. So what you just mentioned, Katie, which is perfect, is that a good example or proof point of an optimized workflow?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely it is. Yeah. It's funny. So for your guys is like between us, I'm actually looking to leave CSM and move into product management. And like, that's one of the things that I use as an example of listening to my internal stakeholders and making a change and like iterating on workflows and on a product essentially. It's sort of one and the same that, but yeah, optimizing workflows, like that's 100% what that means. I think anything that you can do to make your team's life easier is going to make your customer's life easier. And if your goal at the end of the day is to make your customer's life easier, then like those goals are one and the same.
Awesome. And I'm gonna actually just double click on two of the other things that you said, which was SQL. Can you elaborate on that in one or two sentences? And then the other one was, you talked about optimizing CRM, if you had similar proof points there.
Yeah. So I don't know that you necessarily need to know how to use SQL unless you're specifically looking to be more of a like data analyst. That's specifically what SQL is for. If you're joining, I mean, this is like an annoying answer I'm going to give you a lot. It depends on the company. So if you're joining a company that has Looker, and that within the role you're applying for, you would be using Looker, understanding just even a little bit how SQL works. And trust me, I Google 99% of the things I need to know about SQL. But it does help you build more unique dashboards that can tell you more than just vanity metrics. So I think of all the things, like, I see what you're diving into here, like, and we can talk about technical skills for sure. To me, the most important technical skill you can have when it comes to data analytics is how to just like knowing how to use Excel.
Yeah.
Or even Google Sheets. They're slightly different. I spend more of my time in Google Sheets now. And then about optimizing the CRM, that's one example. So that was an optimization that we did in Salesforce.
Got it.
Another optimization that I've done more recently at Mirror, which I can get into, is we spent the last 8 months, so we work in Customer. That's our CRM at Mirror. Customer operates mainly using JSON. And so I had to do a lot of like
Which is a software language for those of you that are not familiar.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I had to learn a lot of JSON, but just sort of by nature of wanting to like learn more about the back end of our CRM. And so I worked with one of the product managers at Mirror, and we built what we call the folder sorting workflow. So what was happening is tickets that were coming in, like into Customer, were going into a folder called All Open Conversations, hundreds of tickets a day. And then one or many people would go look in All Open Conversations and figure out which inbox they belonged in and then manually put them there. It was ridiculous.
It's a lot of work.
You should never have to do that. It's a waste of time. I can't believe we paid anyone to do this. I can't believe I did this over the holiday season, often until 2 o'clock in the morning. So like after having to like live through it, I was like, never again. We're never doing this again. And so we built what we call the folder sorting workflow, which uses a series of regex matches, which is a keyword search, and then understanding, we input a ton of different information. So does the person have an order number? Yes or no? Has the person used a mirror? Do they have an app ID? Meaning like, have they used our app before? And then based on these various attributes, and then the language they're using in the body of their email, we now automate that process with a 95% accuracy.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm going for 100 because I don't want to have anyone ever do any of this again. And the holidays are fast approaching, so we actually like rebuilt it. So I've made a version 2.
Wow, that's amazing.
With all my free time now. That was my Saturday morning activity last week. And so I think we're now at like, I would estimate like a 96%. So like even that 1% increase, I'm very happy with. And so it's much more accurate. We have a lot of other things we can do. So I think if you want to compare to anything that like you've done in your career, any optimization that you've made that then makes you faster. Like I say this in interviews all the time when people ask me what my job is. I'm the member operations. We were like going backwards. We're like back and forth. So I apologize. Let's just go all the way forward. Let's skip amino apps. That was like a year and a half. I got a wonderful partner out of it, and that's about it. So, so Mirror. So okay, you see that they're not lines here. These are ands. So this is what I'm talking about, wearing many hats. So I joined the company as the member operations manager. And then the sales manager left very, very suddenly, and they needed someone to fill the role, and I've done it before. And so I took on that responsibility. So I took on 3 humans. Was it 3? 3 humans. And then we very quickly realized that we needed a retention team as well, and that we consider a retention conversation a continuation of the sale. So it falls on the sales team. So then I now manage, well, actually up until last week, we finally hired a retention manager so I can have like my Saturday back and still work Sunday. Wow. But built the retention team as well. And so
quick question, just org wise, because again, like I know these things can be referred to under different names, but ops and retention, are they both under the Department of Customer Success?
They are. Yeah. So you would think of retention as like retention marketing. We do have a marketing team that's like a separate arm. So within the member experience team, I should have given you guys an org chart, I'm sorry. Try to imagine it in your head. So we have the member experience team, which is like one of the many branches at Mirror. So we have member experience, we have the tech or engineering team. Wait, hold on. Can you save the cat? Can you rescue the cat? The cat likes to lock himself in the cabinet and then he bangs on it and tries to get out. I'm sorry. I can hear him doing it. It's going to drive me insane. Okay, so we have like within the Mirror organization, we have a bunch of different teams. They're like member experience, marketing, engineering, like business ops, people. Those are the sort of like high level. Then within the member experience team, and this is actually something I think is really unique to Mirror, or sort of more like forward thinking companies. So in previous companies, what happens is you have just like your member team and they just deal with everything. And then over the course of like 3 or 4 years, you figure out like, oh, that our business is very complex. It's gaining complexity. We need to break that down. What Mirror did, which was really smart, is they started that way. So they began with the sales team, so all pre-purchase, the technical support team, so anytime someone's having a software problem, the logistics team, so anytime when someone's having a hardware problem, trouble with their delivery or reverse logistics, and then the support team does everything else. You'll find that support teams are often like catch-alls for every other problem.
Yeah.
Not a bad thing. It means your work is going to be super diverse. But the problems of your company might change on a day-to-day basis. So if that's exciting to you, awesome. Because that's what it's always, that is a constant thread across like every company I've ever worked at. So retention is very new in the scheme of things. And so it sort of was like started as a bubble of the sales team, and I like really, really built it out. And then as of 2 weeks ago, we split the baby. I handed it over to someone else, but she's awesome and she's gonna like absolutely kill it, and I'm so excited for them. So that was my meandering career. It's been all over the place. But I think there's a narrative here I'd like to.
Yeah, I think this is great. I mean, I think this is a good, we cut into the meat of some of the rest of the presentation too, and certainly illuminated a lot of kind of startup life, which I know is part of this next section here. I know we have, I'm just keeping track of time, and I thought what would be helpful here is, which by the way, guys, I'm recording this and everyone will get a copy of this as well as the presentation. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I thought we could touch on this, and then, and people on the phone, just like give me some thumbs up here because there's a lot of content.
Go fast.
I was thinking that we could go into this piece as well, because I think this is a lot about, so maybe let's touch on.
I can go fast. I got you.
Yeah, let's touch on this, and then we can hop into that yellow positioning section. I think those are actually great. So, and then we can do some questions. All right, go for it.
Yeah. So this is a vague estimation of how my day breaks down. You'll notice that like, because I'm a team manager, I do a lot fewer customer interactions than the rest of my team. So their day is like 90% customer interaction versus all of the other things that I do. So keep in mind that like what my day looks like may not be what your day looks like. I think as a CSM, it's probably better if this blue section is bigger, but because I wear many hats at the company, this is how my day breaks down. So on a daily basis, I'm doing roughly 25% customer interactions, about 30% operations, and then sort of a mixture of customer insights, so figuring out how are people feeling, how do I escalate that to our senior leadership team, coaching and training my team, making sure that they have what they need. I would include in that like taking escalations from really, really angry people. My philosophy is that like we don't pay anyone enough to take the angriest people, and certainly not my team. And so if there's someone who's like screaming and swearing at them on the phone, they should not be the person answering that, and they should escalate to a manager right away so that I'm full and free to tell that person like, you can't talk to us that way. Team metrics is something that I look at. So how did we do yesterday? How many missed calls did we have? What was our SLA for picking up the phone? How many emails do we have? We don't track CSAT at Mirror, but if we did, what our CSAT was for the previous day, any angry comments that we got, etc. And then interviewing and hiring is something we're doing a lot right now. So I spend about six hours a week doing interviews, and then another 2 hours a week just looking through resumes and finding great people.
This is amazing. This is like super fascinating just to see how you, and very, I mean, very strategic. Like I think all these things really kind of complement each other.
Yeah. What I will say is like, I'll reiterate, like this blue section probably should be bigger, but because I manage sort of two curriculums, as it were, I would say I do a fair more operations, just a wee bit more than customer interaction.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay, I am going to move into this, and we could kind of like, I know this goes on for a few pages here.
Yeah.
So I thought we could do like kind of rapid fire, because there's a lot of content on this, but really just like what's the kind of one liner for each of these rows, if you will. And I'm sure this is probably a great segue into the Q&A as well.
Yeah, I would also, if it's all right, I do want to touch a little bit on the startup section, but we can definitely do this first.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I went and found like real job descriptions out in the world. So the things in this leftmost column are like actual bullet points from real requisitions that are not Mirror's requisitions. They're just random companies. Well, not random. I tried to choose like a nice mix of like tech and SaaS. And enterprise. So 8+ years of experience in client-facing roles. So what do they want to see? They really want to know that you have some real life experience. I think anytime a company says we want like X amount of experience, they're not really looking for like a strict 8 years. This is like a large group of women. So I'm going to tell you, like, one of the things that I do when I'm applying for jobs and feeling like maybe I'm not prepared for it is I ask myself, like, would a man apply for this job? And the answer is always yes. And so I should apply for it. So I mean, this is like this honestly is like a mantra that has gotten me through to a lot of different things that I wouldn't have done otherwise, where I asked myself, like, if a man was going to apply for this, why shouldn't I? I'm just as qualified. So they really want to know that like you can manage complex relationships. That's it. How they like, why do they want to see that? They just want to know you have a demonstrated track record of success in something similar. And so instead of giving you bullet points, because I think when I looked at everyone's LinkedIn, you all have really interesting different careers. That is not a bad thing. If anything, that's good. That's going to help an organization build a really unique structure by having people from all over the place. My team, everyone's from all over the place. We all have totally different backgrounds. And so these, I don't need to like read you the slide, but like these are some of the questions you can ask yourself about your work career that might help you frame bullet points either for your resume or talking points for an interview. I think the biggest part of this maybe is just what impact did the relationships that I have brokered, like what impact that actually have on the business.
Yeah, that's great.
That's what they want to know. It's like, not like, can you do it? It's like, when you do it, what happens?
Right. The impact. Yep.
Yeah. So project management skills, they just want to know you're organized, that you can actually achieve the goals you set out to achieve, and that you can time manage yourself. So one of the things I learned a lot at Uniqlo was time management, and really being able to like in your head quickly assess like, how much time do I actually reasonably have? So like, I mean, I'm learning this in my product management class, but it's also like, really, what's your minimum viable product? So if your manager comes to you and says, I need you to do like XYZ by the end of the week, in your head, you should be able to quickly calculate and say, like, is that a reasonable timeline? If not, what can I get done by that time frame, like by the end of the week? And then, okay, so the goal is to do this. How many additional days or hours do I need to achieve that goal?
Right. What are the trade-offs?
Yep. What are your trade-offs? So they're not looking for someone who's going to say yes to everything. I think anyone who's looking for that, like that, to me, that's a red flag about, you don't want to work at a company like that.
Yeah.
That like your manager should hear you say, okay, you know, reasonably, like, these are all the things I'm working on. Let me remind you of all the other things that you handed to me already. This deadline's not reasonable. This is what I'm going to get you by the deadline. And then these are the other things I'm going to get you after that. So like by this other time, it's not like I'm not going to do it. I am, but like, let's be reasonable. Or you say, okay, is this a bigger priority than XYZ? And if they say yes, you're like, great, I'm putting all those other things on hold and I'm going to focus on this.
Awesome.
Yeah, sorry, I'm speeding through because I know we want to be cognizant of time. Okay, negotiation, communication, presentation skills. Again, like they just want to see that you've done this before and then what was the result of that thing. The main reason, if you, and it's so cheesy and I hate hearing myself say it, but like, you are the voice of the customer. No one else is gonna, first of all, no one else can hear them because you're the one who's on the phone with them. But you need to be the person who's going to advocate for them because nobody else is going to want to hear it. However, everyone else wants to work on all these like cool, fun projects because they have intellectual curiosity and they're interested in like working at a company to work on cool projects. At the end of the day, without the customers, you have no business, and you're the person who has to remind the company of that. Mm-hmm. So they might say, oh, well, we want to do this because it looks good for investors. And you say, okay, does it look good for investors for us to like lose X amount of customers? Because like, you want to do this really silly feature that 90% of people are going to hate.
Yeah.
The reason I don't talk about Amino, that's what happened. They didn't listen to us. We knew what the users wanted, and they wanted to build a whole other product that totally disenfranchised like all of the users that they already had, and everybody left in terms of like the users and the team. So yeah, so think about times like you've negotiated on behalf of other people, and it doesn't need to be aggressive. I think like I probably skew on the more aggressive or like loud outspoken side, but I don't think that you need to be outspoken or aggressive to be a great communicator or to advocate on behalf of other people. That's just my personal communication style, and it works for me. I'm kind of belligerent. So it works. People listen. So yeah. Anything you want to put on here, or otherwise we can just go to the next slide.
Yeah, let's go to the next slide, and then we can pause after that too, because I want to give you a break as well.
I'm good. I could go for it. I'm in meetings all day long. Some water. How about that? Gotta hydrate. Okay, consultative strategic mindset with proven ability to sell without being a seller. This one's so cheesy. But I included it because like there's just going to be like really cliche stuff on requisitions, and you got to figure out how to navigate that. So what do they mean by that? It's like you convince people to like love and have an emotional connection with your company without being a used car salesman. And I think the way that you do that is by asking really great questions. You understand your clients better than anybody else. And so, you know, if there's like a new feature that comes out, like you immediately in your head have like a list of your customers. You're like, oh, all of these people would super benefit from this. I would also say, if you want to make sure that you're speaking directly to this one, think about a time you convinced someone to interact with like whatever it is, like whatever service more. What did you say to those people? What was the result of that? How did you A/B test or like iterate on your own language? What mistakes did you make? Like I've had plenty of times where I like made the totally wrong call with a customer and like really pissed them off. And so thinking through that, it's like, okay, well, based on what I said, what cues did I miss? Like an example would be, I really like to be super honest with my customers. sometimes that just doesn't vibe with people. So we had one person who thought that they were getting 12 free months of membership, and they were definitely not. And but part of that was that we made a mistake on our receipt, and it read like you were getting 12 free months. Most people are like, okay, cool, I understand. Yep, fine. This one person, I apologized. I said, you know what, you're right. That receipt is super confusing. And to be honest with you, like, we're making a change based on feedback that we've gotten about this. And so, like, what I was trying to demonstrate to her was, we're capable of change. Like, we're listening to you, and we're going to continue, if you keep a relationship with us, we're going to continue making business changes based on your needs. And she was like, okay, well, it was wrong, so what are you going to do for me? And it was like, she was like, you admit you made a mistake, so you should give me. And I was like, okay, I totally messed that up. Like, I read the room totally wrong, and it happens from time to time. So thinking about the mistakes you've made is great too.
Well, you also touch on something there, which I know just from knowing you too, is that, like, just being authentic with people is really, really important, because that's the way where you're not going to come across as being salesy, and it's not going to work for everyone, but people will also appreciate. Yeah.
People are way more astute than you think they are, even when they're acting dumb. Like, they can tell. Yeah, I totally agree. I think, like, I mean, it's so corny, but like, honesty is the best policy. So an example would be, you know, if someone comes, like, I mean, this is more of a B2C example, but we have a competitor who has a touch screen option, and we don't offer that. And so when they come and they say, like, you know, I ordered from you thinking that you were your competitor, and it turns out you don't have a touch screen option, and they do, so I want to cancel my order. I'm not going to lie to them and say, like, oh, well, maybe one day. It's like, no, we don't have a touch screen option. And the reason is we don't want your disgusting smudgy fingerprints all over your mirror. And that's why we have an app, so that you can keep your mirror super beautiful. And we're going to send you a free cleaning kit. And usually when we say that to people, they're like, oh, I didn't really consider that. Of course, I don't want to get disgusting smudgy fingerprints all over my mirror. So sometimes, like, you know better than they do what they actually want.
Interesting. Yeah. I like that. That's smooth, but authentic.
It is. I think it's like, you know, every company, and like, you're not going to have to come up with this yourself, but every company has like core values, and it's really up to you to figure out how to weave those values into the common questions or problems that arise in your day-to-day.
Right. That's interesting. That's really interesting. And how brand is so critical to a lot of these roles.
Oh, extremely. Like, at Mirror, we're like very polished and professional. At Casper, we were like punny cutesy. And that was a transition, going from, like, I would sign emails like rest easy, to being like extremely polished professional, like using macros, making sure everything is like an example would be like, the company is Mirror, all caps. The product is Mirror, just a capital M. And like, we're careful about that. So like, branding can be very important in your job every day. And like, this more psycho you are about adhering to that, the sort of like better polish you're going to have externally.
Fascinating.
Okay. So working technical knowledge. I feel like this is probably one that's giving some anxiety. So what they really want to know is that you can operate within a queue-based system. They don't have time to teach you CRM basics. They will have time to teach you about the specific CRM that you're using. So I think it's more of a plus when they say, like, has experience with like Salesforce, Desk, Zendesk, Customer, etc. But if you've used Zendesk and then the company you're going to uses Salesforce, that's fine. And then if you've used some like proprietary queue-based system at your current role, talk about that. That's fine. They may not have heard of it. Who cares if it's not one of the like big box programs, as long as it's a queue-based or CRM-like program that you've used before and you can speak to that. They just want to know that you can use it. And then if you want to go deeper, figure out like, what KPIs was I able to achieve within that system? So maybe it's like average response time, or CSAT, or I guess NPS, if that's something that's important to your company. Not usually typically associated with a customer team, but sometimes. Or like number of tickets done in a day, average time spent per ticket, et cetera, first time done, whatever.
Yeah. I just want to underscore, like, because a lot of what you've been talking about, which is awesome, is the impact and the metrics, and like basically the results of the actions and the initiatives that you've done. We were just going as a group through resume updates and exercises, and everybody's here is in really good shape. And that was one piece of feedback that I think across the board, like, I mean, everybody who's writing resumes, like, needs to work on that, but you're so close to it. Sometimes it's hard to think about that very specific metric or result. But I think thinking about it, even if it is kind of qualifying something, or sorry, quantifying something that is qualitative, I think is really helpful to be able to explicitly state that result.
Yeah, I agree. I think too that, let's say on the job description, they say that you have to like be somewhat analytical. You can display that by having those KPIs on your resume, without explicitly stating like, I am analytical. That's demonstrating your ability.
Right.
I think we've touched on workflow or business improvements, so maybe we can skip over that.
Yeah. Cool. Last few, and then how's everybody doing? And here, do we any burning questions before we cover this last one, or want to cover this last one and then move into questions?
Whichever. Yeah, I'll go through this quickly.
Cool.
Okay, so identify opportunities to expand customers' investment. This is like another blah, blah, blah in company by understanding their unique priorities. Okay, they just want to know how proactive you are. So if you have a new feature, who's on your short list of people you're going to reach out to? So for example, I have this amazing CSM at AirCall. I actually despise AirCall. I hate AirCall. I can't wait to get rid of AirCall. If I could take Victoria with me to like whatever other phone provider we use, that'd be great, because I adore her for so many reasons. Like, number one, every time there's a new feature or a feature change, she reaches out to me and she's like, Katie, you're my loudest customer. Like, you give me so much feedback. I adore you. Like, we have a great relationship. And she is part of the reason why we have a great relationship. And so she'll reach out and say like, hey, these things are happening. There's an automated email that goes out every time something goes down. I also always get an email from Victoria. She's like, Katie, I know that it's affecting your team. I'm so sorry. The team's working on it. And when it's over, I'm going to tell you exactly why it happened. Because she knows that I care about those things and like, I want to report those to my manager. So she is super proactive about reaching out to me and like, oh man, I hope Victoria gets a new job because AirCall is terrible. But like, Victoria is an absolute keeper, and I guarantee you when we fire AirCall, I'm going to send her boss an email to be like, it's not her fault. She's great. She's the only reason we've stayed as long as we have. That's the power of a great CSM.
Yep.
Proven experience managing technical project implementations. Okay, see, this one feels like a little silly to me to have on here, because like anyone who has this is also looking for someone who's kind of a product manager. What they really want to know is that like you can anticipate workflow problems before they happen. They want to know that you can not only understand a complicated concept, but then explain that in easy to understand terms. An example of an interview question that we ask at Mirror is, can you like choose your favorite social media and then explain it to me like I'm your grandmother who's never picked up a smartphone before. That's what we're looking for. So it's like you can, number one, explain these really complicated concepts to somebody who can't understand them and get them to get it. And then that you can provide insight, or you can give people feedback on problems before they happen. So I had an example and I've lost it. Oh, they came up with a new way of filtering workouts on the Mirror app. and it was super confusing. And we immediately like ran to the product team. We were like, no, this is bad. All of our boomers are going to be confused as hell. And they were like, no, it's going to be fine. We're going to test it. They took it down after 24 hours. None of the boomers, like everyone our parents' age and older was extremely confused, had no idea how to find anything. And then based on the feedback we gave, without even having to do like testing or user interviews, we could tell them how to change it.
That's also why CSMs, not to get ahead of ourselves, I think make great product managers.
Right.
As their next move.
Yeah. And then the last thing is synthesizing and storytelling around data and analytics. I love this one. It really means that you can escalate customer feedback into solutions. So you're not just like coming to the senior leadership team and saying like, hey, this thing's a problem. And they're like, okay, and?
Right.
Hey, this thing is a problem, and here are like 5 things we think that you can do to fix that. So again, you're the voice of the customer. The organization is like not just expecting you, but relying on you to organize all your thoughts, put them into bullet points, and then relay that sentiment in a way that's super easy to understand, that then the senior leadership team can take and turn into a business decision. So an example would be, we, because of COVID, it used to be the fact that you had to accept installation. Like we had to drill it into your wall. And if you didn't accept that, your warranty was voided. Of course, because of coronavirus, we don't want to send people into your home if you're not comfortable with it. So we removed that and we made it optional. So if you were comfortable and you wanted someone to come in and install the mirror, you could totally do that. We realized in the last couple of months that people were returning the mirror who had never used it. And we realized what was happening is it was being delivered. It's a 70-pound product in a big ass box. They open it up. They look at the instructions. They're like, I don't have a drill. I don't want to deal with this. And they call us and return it. So because of that, we were able to reverse that decision, and it's now required installation unless you ask us not to. Our return rate went down immediately.
That's fascinating.
And that's because the CSM team very quickly realized this, where nobody else saw it as a problem. Was we were super duper loud about it. We showed all of the numbers. We gave customer not just this is the number of people, we also gave sentiment of like, I haven't taken it out of the box 60 times in a week. And they were like, oh shit, this is a problem. So that's a great, these are like such rich anecdotes that you're sharing. I hope
this
so.
is awesome.
I feel like I don't know if I'm telling you guys things you're like, yes, Katie, we already know this. No? Okay.
These are helpful.
Will you indulge me and go back to the startup section very quickly?
Yeah, well, we're like running.
Okay, that's
yeah,
fine.
I just want to be, I want to be conscious of your time too, because I know it's, but I'll just open up for 1 second and then I will get back to it. But questions. I know this is a lot of stuff, but hopefully a lot of the questions were answered too, but any immediate questions so far?
Don't be shy. I don't bite.
It's quite a group we got, Katie.
I actually have a question, and I think, Katie, you're about to go to it, but transitioning into the startup world from maybe a bigger corporation and like Uniqlo, and how, what were some of the challenges that you faced, and then, how did you overcome them, or how did you adjust going to the new companies that you were at based on their size?
I feel like going from Uniqlo to Casper was like kind of ridiculous, because I went from working 12 to 16 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week, to like ice luges on the roof of our office building.
A little different.
Yeah. And of course, not every transition is going to be like that. I think that was like 0 to 100, going from like a very strict Japanese corporation to like one of the hottest startups, which we had no idea that was going to happen. I think your experience will be like a little less culture shocky, but if it's not, call me. But I think most of the changes are good. I think it's exciting to have direct impact on the company that, everything that you do has an impact on the company. And if like that could go both directions, right? So it's like when you do something, it affects 100% of the people that you work with. Right. That's super exciting. And then when you make a mistake, you're so screwed. It feels terrible. You feel so bad. Like something happened this week. It wasn't even my fault. And I was still like beating myself up about it. We realized that there were 500 emails that were lost in the ether in our CRM. And the reason it was happening is because our team members were sending, instead of replying to an email that came in, they were sending new emails because they wanted it to feel fresh. They were totally doing the right thing, but that didn't run through any of our workflows. So they were just like chilling. They were in their inboxes, but the managers couldn't see them. Yeah. This is not my fault at all, but I feel personally responsible for everything that happens in our CRM. And I was up super late trying to fix the problem and like creating stopgap solutions. So it's like, it's a trade up, and you have to have sort of the like wherewithal to laugh it off when you really mess up. And you own up to it. You say, guys, I'm super sorry. I'm really sorry this happened. It's not going to happen again. Here's what I'm going to do to fix it. And then you work as hard as you can to fix it, even if it takes you all night and you don't sleep until the next day. Like and you'll hear this all the time. This is a startup. This isn't a 9-to-5, and they mean it. That's like some days it's like, cool, it's 6 o'clock, time to go home. And then some days it's like, oh no, this is holiday. Like we're here until the inbox is 0. And it doesn't matter how long that takes, because there's no one else they're not gonna do it. So does that answer?
Right. Yes, it's helpful. Thank you.
It's fun though. You have a good
time. Any other questions from this crew?
Yes. I have a question, kind of specific. I notice a lot of the job descriptions say, experience in Salesforce or experience in customer or an experience in yada, yada, yada. And even coming from literally customer service, I have 0. We're just email and phone call based. And so how should I be like taking like intro classes, like, Udemy, some $11.99 deal or something? Or how do you even, every job description wants that. And I just respond to emails, like, or phone calls, like that's literally it. So how would you spin that?
Melissa, you're underselling your skills. Like, how is your email inbox set up?
Just an email inbox.
Are you sure? What do your folders look like? How do you work with people?
Yeah, they just bottom to top. Like, it's just not.
Yeah. So maybe think about, like, if it really is just bottom to top, think about how you're organizing people. So for example, like, because I've worked in CRMs for so long, my Gmail is organized like an absolute psycho. Like I think like 10,000 open emails, but they're all in a folder. They're all tagged. And so think about, like, if you're looking at your inbox and you're like, man, I'm having a really hard time like finding certain people, or I want to organize people. Like, I think what they're really looking for is like your ability to like sort and organize stuff. So maybe it's a matter of like looking at your inbox and saying like, okay, so we have these customers who they're all at one particular company. So I'm going to group them all together that way. Or maybe it's like, these people all wrote in with the same issue. So I'm going to start using the tagging system. Do you use like Gmail? Outlook? Outlook. I think Outlook has a tagging function. So you could use a tagging function, or like an inbox, like some kind of function where it's like, I'm going to quantify all of the tickets that come in by adding a specific tag, like to these, or not tickets, emails. So that when it's time for me to give feedback to the like people above me, I can say, hey, I've been tracking this issue, and like, this is the number of people who wrote in, or this is the cadence at which they wrote in. So it's like every week we're getting this many emails about this particular problem. Or I'm like, as like a customer service support agent, I'm resolving this issue X amount of times a week. And like, if we could fix that in our supply chain, we would reduce the amount of time I'm spending on it. We'd make our customers happier. This is how many times it's happening each week. These are the comments that people are making about the problem that they're having. Go do something about it. Here's what I think we should do. So like, if you look at your inbox like that, as like not just a means of communication, but as a means of quantifying and collecting customer sentiment, that's what they want in a CRM. So I encourage you, like, if your inbox isn't set up that way, try it. And like, maybe you're going to mess up and like, it's not going to be organized the way you want it to, just like undo and then try it a different way.
Okay.
Yeah. That's great. Okay, I know we're 2 minutes over, and I apologize. I certainly have time, but I want to be mindful of everybody's. Should we go for another 5 minutes? Is everyone okay with that? And if you have to drop off, totally cool.
I can say.
Okay, cool.
5 minutes,
well, then,
works. Yeah.
All right. I will open it up for a final question, or if not, we can have Katie talk about startup stuff, whatever this group prefers. Burning questions?
Oh, I might have another one.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, cool.
So you talked about like optimizing workflow, and I have a really hard time quantifying those things. So say you have created some, cloud-based database for customer pricing. So everyone can go find the information they need in one place instead of yelling across the room, what does so-and-so pay?
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's saved. I'm assuming it's saved time. I don't know how to quantify, oh, it's shaved 3 seconds off of my phone call. Like, I don't know how to quantify certain things like that.
I mean, I don't know too much about like what you're experiencing, but the way I would think about it is like, do you think it's 3 seconds a phone call, roughly?
I couldn't even begin.
Come on, guess.
Yeah,
like,
you got to guesstimate.
Okay, do you have to open a new page to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, so consider that like 20 seconds, right? Depending on how fast your internet is. And then when you get there, how much information do you have to type in?
It's literally just a list.
Okay, so do you control F on your list?
Yeah.
Okay, 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, and then when you find it, do you have to input other information, or you have to like copy paste that somewhere else, or you just tell someone over the phone?
It's just, I guess you would paste that information somewhere else.
Okay, so that's probably like, depending on how many windows you have open between, let's just say 5 seconds. So like, yeah, 30 seconds a phone call, right?
Okay.
How many phone calls do you take a day? Roughly.
30, 40, maybe.
Okay, I can't do math in my head, so we're gonna do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so.
I use Excel for everything. Remember in high school when they were like, you're never gonna take a calculator with you.
Little did they know Steve Jobs was going to bring it to our phones.
What if we say, 50 calls times 30 seconds is what, 25 minutes?
Yep, 25 minutes. Okay. Oh, you're good. 25 minutes a day.
Wow.
So that's one way to think about it, is like 25 minutes a day. And if you're like, 25 minutes a day doesn't really sound that impressive, like what can we do for a week? Like if I'm working 5 days a week.
Yep.
I'm saving 125 minutes a week. The other way you could think about it is like in terms of percentages. So if you're saving, you could say like, okay, we're just going to do some math, but I can't do it in my head, so excuse me. So how long on average would you say your phone calls are?
I guess on average, probably 5 minutes.
Okay, so if you're saving, 5 minutes times 60 seconds in a minute, 300. Okay, 30 divided by 300. So you're saving like 10% of your time per phone call.
Okay.
So you efficiently reduced your workload by 10%.
Okay.
By implementing this change.
First of all, I'm just loving this real-time math situation right here. This is so great. We're just going to repurpose this for the data science masterclass. I think I love this exercise because I think this can be applied to anything. It's really just you don't have to think about a report that was handed to you or in a presentation that represents like efficiency or increased revenue or increased sales or retention. Like I think exactly that exercise that Katie just went through is a great way to think about each of those bullets that you're trying to find that impact metric for, and just like get really simple. You know, was it time spent? Was it the number of touch points in an experience? Whatever that is, that like single metric is, try and think about how you can really quantify it. And I love that shorthand around like whether it's a percentage or some other kind of order of magnitude to demonstrate the impact. I think that's key.
Yeah, to me, it's like what number sounds the best. And I'm trying to decide like what sounds better. Like I reduced workload by 10% or I increased efficiency by 10%. And I think increasing efficiency by 10% sounds better to me. The other thing I'll say too is like, I love how specific you are, Melissa. You're like, I don't know. Therefore, I'm not going to like, I'm hesitant to give you an answer because I don't know the exact number. That's just make shit up. I think it's gonna, like, it's going to make you a really effective CSM to be incredibly specific and to be so detail oriented. Like I can tell that like, for example, like if we have like a macro with a mistake in it, I know that like you're the first person to be like, there's a mistake there, you got to fix it. I know you are, like you can tell from this conversation, but you also have to like let it go a little and you just like guesstimate. It's like, yeah, you know, it takes me, I don't know, about 30 seconds and just work up from there. And there's two ways to think about your metrics, right? Which is like top down or bottom up. I don't need to go into like how it is now. You can look this up online. But like thinking about, like goal setting and metrics, top down, bottom up. That will help you, I think, sort of like frame your efficiencies better.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This is so great. Do you have a parting comment or so around startup stuff? I feel bad we didn't get to that. But.
I don't know how to choose my favorite bullet point.
Well, I can bring it up really quickly. If you want.
I just want to be, I know you guys, it's almost 9:30. I'm sure you're sleepy. I could go all night. Let's go. I have water. We're good. We talked about that a little.
Yeah, we talked about this.
Okay, yeah. So one of the things I wanted to talk about, okay. So this number one, the business is primordial. So I have this like, it's just 3 pages. I'm sure, Amika, you can like share this.
Yeah, definitely.
You guys like feel free to email me if you have a question about it.
Katie's on Slack too, and I'll connect us.
Oh yeah. So the business was primordial. That's why we love startups. It can get sticky because the direction changes frequently. So keep that in mind when you're joining a company, that like the company you join today is definitely not going to be the company that you joined tomorrow. Everything changes incredibly quickly. At Mirror, we have a saying called better is better. And so even if we change something yesterday, doesn't mean that we shouldn't change it today, because just because we feel like we found a better way to do it, we're going to do it. It doesn't matter that we changed the thing yesterday. And a lot of startups operate like this. A lot of startups operate in the realm of like, we're going to break it until it works. And that bleeds into a lot of these other things. The other thing I'll say is like, it's super cool because you, in a lot of ways, get to define your own role, and your career growth can be super fast. So I sort of left this out, like, yes, based on business needs, you may not be the best fit for like the promotion you want, which is like, can be heartbreaking, but actually isn't really a bad thing. But when I say like define your role, you have to be really comfortable with ambiguity, or you have to learn to be comfortable with ambiguity. I thrive in it. I don't like being told what to do. I think I talk to my manager once a month, and that's great. And it's literally our one-on-ones are like, okay, this is what I did and this is what I'm going to do. Any feedback? And then she says like, yes, do this. No, don't do that. Do this instead. And then I'm like, great. See you when it's Scorpio season. Because like, I don't have time to meet her on a weekly basis, and I certainly don't want her breathing down my neck.
Right.
So you'll have a lot less oversight, which means less feedback, and you're going to have to break some stuff.
That's a good litmus test to kind of try on. We also, one of the things that was shared earlier today was like different company stages and what life could be like there. And I think mentioning the kind of ambiguity and lack of structure, and really the opportunity to implement and create that working at a startup is great.
Yep. So yeah,
awesome.
We touch on the other stuff, so I won't go on any longer. Thank you for humoring me.
Yeah, no, that was great. I mean, as I was flipping through that, I was impressed that we actually covered a lot of it. So, Katie, can't thank you enough. Amazing. You're just born to be a product manager and obviously a customer success manager. So I'm thrilled that we got to have you. Thank you for being so generous with your time into this group. And thanks to this crew. I know for being patient and going over again. I know it's late when we do these sessions, but I will send the follow-up materials tomorrow to everyone on the Slack, and Katie's in the Slack too. So, you can say hi, and we'll chat more tomorrow.
Sounds good.
All right.
Sounds good. Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
guys.
Appreciate it.
I hope your cat's okay.
Oh, he's an idiot, but he's fine.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye.
Have a good one.